Why is it that when someone walks away from us, our first instinct is to chase them, to prove our worth, to show them what they're missing? You've probably felt that desperate urge before, that burning need to make them see that leaving you was their biggest mistake. But here's what most people don't understand about regret, about loss, and about the psychology of walking away. The truth is, you can't force someone to regret their decision by begging, pleading, or desperately trying to prove your value. In fact, those behaviors do the exact opposite. They validate their choice to leave. They confirm that walking away was the right decision. Think about it. When someone leaves and you immediately start chasing, what message are you sending? You're telling them that they have all the power, that your happiness depends entirely on their presence, that you can't function without them. And deep down, that desperation repels people rather than attracting them back. But there is something you can do that will genuinely make someone regret walking away. Something that taps into human psychology so deeply that it creates a shift in how they see both you and their decision to leave. It's not manipulation. It's not playing games. It's something far more powerful and authentic. The secret is this: become the person they fell for in the first place. But better, not for them, but for yourself. Here's what happens in most relationships that end. Over time, we start to lose ourselves. We become comfortable, maybe a little complacent. We stop growing, stop challenging ourselves, stop being the vibrant, interesting person our partner was initially attracted to. We settle into routines, take each other for granted, and slowly but surely, the spark begins to fade. When someone walks away, they're often walking away from this version of you, the settled version, the version that stopped trying, stopped growing, stopped being exciting. They're not walking away from your potential. They're walking away from who you became when you got comfortable. So when they leave, instead of chasing them, instead of trying to convince them of your worth, you do something completely unexpected. You let them go, you respect their decision, and then you get to work on yourself. But this isn't about becoming someone else to win them back. This is about rediscovering who you were before you got lost in the relationship. This is about becoming the best version of yourself, not as a strategy to get them back, but because you deserve to live as your fullest, most authentic self. Start with your physical health, not because you need to look good for them, but because taking care of your body is the foundation of self-respect. When you exercise, when you eat well, when you prioritize your health, you're sending a message to yourself and to the world that you value yourself. This confidence radiates outward in ways you can't even imagine. Reconnect with your passions. Remember those hobbies, interests, and dreams you put on the back burner when you got comfortable in the relationship. Pick them up again. Dive deeper than you ever have before. Whether it's music, art, fitness, learning a new skill, or building something meaningful, immerse yourself in activities that make you feel alive and purposeful. Rebuild your social connections. Often in relationships, we let friendships fade as we become more focused on our partner. Reach out to old friends. Make new ones. Surround yourself with people who appreciate and support you. Build a rich, fulfilling social life that doesn't revolve around one person. Focus on your goals and ambitions. What did you want to achieve before you got sidetracked by the relationship? What dreams did you put on hold? Start working toward them again, not with desperation, but with genuine excitement for your future. Success is attractive, but more importantly, pursuing your goals gives your life meaning and direction. Work on your emotional intelligence and communication skills. Maybe the relationship ended because of patterns of behavior, communication issues, or emotional immaturity. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, use this time to genuinely grow in these areas. Read books, consider therapy, practice self-reflection, become someone who can handle relationships with greater wisdom and emotional stability. Here's what happens when you take this approach. First, you start to genuinely feel better about yourself. Your confidence returns, but it's not the desperate, needy confidence of someone trying to prove their worth. It's the quiet, solid confidence of someone who knows their value because they're actively creating it. Second, other people start to notice. Friends comment on how good you look, how much happier you seem, how inspiring your new pursuits are. You start attracting new opportunities, new connections, new possibilities. Your life becomes fuller and more interesting than it was even before the relationship. And here's where the psychology gets really interesting. The person who walked away starts to hear about these changes, maybe through mutual friends, maybe through social media, maybe through chance encounters. They start to see glimpses of this new version of you, the version that isn't chasing them, isn't desperate for their attention, isn't defined by their absence. This creates cognitive dissonance in their mind. They left someone who was comfortable, maybe a little stagnant, possibly taking them for granted, But now they're seeing someone who is thriving, growing, becoming more attractive and interesting than ever. And they're doing it all without needing them. This is when regret starts to creep in, not because you're trying to make them jealous, but because they're genuinely witnessing what they walked away from. They're seeing your potential realized, your best self emerging, and they're realizing that maybe they gave up on something good too quickly. But here's the most important part of this entire process. By the time they start to feel regret, by the time they start to wonder if they made a mistake, you've changed too. You've grown beyond the person who was devastated by their leaving. You've become someone who doesn't need their validation to feel whole. This puts you in a position of genuine power, not the manipulative kind, but the kind that comes from self-knowledge and self-worth. If they come back, you can evaluate whether they're truly right for this new version of yourself. If they don't, you've still won because you've become someone you're proud to be. The beautiful irony is that the very act of not chasing them, of focusing on your own growth instead of their approval, makes you infinitely more attractive than any amount of pursuing ever could. People are drawn to those who are complete within themselves, who have their own lives, goals, and sense of purpose. Remember, someone's decision to walk away often has more to do with where they are in their life than with your inherent worth as a person. Sometimes people leave because they're afraid of commitment, dealing with their own issues, or simply not ready for what you have to offer. By becoming your best self, you give them the opportunity to see what they walked away from, but more importantly, you give yourself the opportunity to become who you were always meant to be. The goal isn't to make someone regret leaving you. The goal is to become someone so incredible, so fulfilled, so genuinely happy that their absence becomes irrelevant to your joy. And paradoxically, that's exactly when people start to regret walking away from you. So don't chase, don't beg, don't try to convince them of your worth. Instead, show yourself and the world what you're capable of when you're not defined by someone else's presence or absence. Become undeniable, not through desperation, but through excellence. This is how you win, regardless of whether they ever come back.